Well, if you were thinking about heading out for some fishing and maybe Hansens Reservoir, which is down in the Eckville area, was on your list, think again. Some rather strange event has taken place at this reservoir, and a real pleasure to have Alberta Conservation Association President and CEO Todd Zimmerling join us today. Todd, I guess let's jump right into it. What is the issue? You guys just put some fish in the reservoir, and what happened?
Well, it looks like we have a fish kill that's occurring. So we did put fish in April, and there were no problems with the fish at that point in time. And then we just stocked another 2,000 rainbow on what would be, I guess, Wednesday. And then between Wednesday and Thursday, it appears that we may have had an algae bloom that rapidly appeared there. And by Thursday morning, we were starting to see signs of fish in distress. And by the afternoon, there were fish definitely floating and some up on shore. So unfortunately, it looks like we've got at least a partial fish kill occurring there right now.
What kind of fish are we talking about?
Rainbow trout. So we had stocked 2,000 rainbow trout in April, and like I said, everything was fine. And then another 2,000 rainbow trout went in on Wednesday.
Now, I know just having been at lakes, whether it's stocked by a private contractor or by the province, steps are always taken to take a reading of the water, temperature, pH levels, that type of thing. And as far as you know, all of those things were normal before the fish were put in?
Yeah, they as you say, it is standard procedure to check the water quality before the fish are stocked, because the last thing anybody wants to do is throw fish into a pond that they know are going to die. And so, yeah, all the water quality parameters were within the values that they're supposed to be, and everything looked fine for the fish on Wednesday when they're put in. Um, what we think may have happened, and we're not 100% sure yet, but what may have happened is, I guess, there was some rainy weather Wednesday down in that area. I know those of us in Edmonton didn't see any of that, but certainly, I guess, down in that area, there was some rain. It may have caused an increase in some nutrients to enter into the water, so increased phosphorus or nitrogen, and that with the warm weather the next day would have resulted in, or could have resulted in, an increase in algae growth. Certainly the video that I've seen, there is a fair bit of algae on the pond right now, so that's sort of what we're leaning towards, that may be what has caused the problem.
An event like this, Todd, does that pose some concern for you for some of the other properties that the Alberta Conservation Association works around and stocks lakes?
So an algae bloom like this is relatively rare with our ponds that we stock. It certainly happens occasionally, but it's not a constant thing that we see all the time. We haven't had this occur anywhere else this year, but we certainly have a number of concerns. Algae blooms will eat up the oxygen within the water, which results in the fish dying. So that's one concern. But high temperatures can be an issue as well. So this coming week, we've got what's predicted to be record high temperatures coming. That will be a problem not just for our stock ponds, for all our fisheries, particularly trout that are very sensitive to higher water temperatures for sure. So there's an issue where in our stock ponds in particular, we do find normally throughout the summer, the lower water depth, so near the bottom, the oxygen starts to become depleted. So the fish will move a little further up in the water column. When you start to get these high temperatures over 30 degrees, now you get the upper water column starting to become warm. So the fish start to become squeezed between a lack of oxygen low down and a lack of proper temperatures higher up. So that certainly can become a problem, no doubt about it, yes.
Um, it- I do want to touch on temperatures. I'll come back to that. But in terms of fish stocking, maybe once things kind of calm down, would you go back to Hansens Reservoir and restock, or is that sort of off the list for this year now?
I think it's too early for us to determine what the next steps will be. If it turns out this is just sort of a short-term issue and it can be dealt with, then there's a chance we might be able to go and put some fish in. It'd be later in the fall because we are now starting into the warmer part of the year where stocking usually isn't done because it's just not conducive to having the fish survive too many issues with temperature shock when we put them in the water. So potentially in the fall, but we'll have to look at that once we get a better handle on what exactly has happened. Like I say, at this point, it's just our guess. It's been an algae bloom, but we don't know for sure that is the cause.
So, of course, the warmer temperatures, especially for folks fishing, perhaps out on river systems and that type of thing, extra care has to be taken when we start getting into these hot days. Is the same true for a lake scenario as well, Todd?
Yeah, essentially all of our fish species here in Alberta, will be impacted, to lesser or greater extents, depending upon the species. But yeah, I mean, it's when you're fighting a fish, there's stress on the fish, obviously. If you add increased temperature, water temperature, particularly at the surface, then it just makes that stress that much worse for the fish itself. And certainly, like I said, trout are very susceptible to it, but certainly walleye, there's information out there that shows that walleye being fished through warmer temperatures can have the same kinds of issues recovering, much slower recovery, and they may not recover at all. So be careful how much you're playing the fish, and maybe sometimes the heat of the day, maybe it's time not to be fishing at all and just laying in the sunshine for a bit. Wait till it gets a little cooler in the evening or do it in the morning.
All right, Todd Zimmerling, Alberta Conservation Association. Thanks so much for this update, and we will touch base with you again if you have more information to pass on to anglers that like to visit not only Hansens Reservoir but other stock ponds across the province. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, thank you, Michael.